pleasant day to you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tanyala Zamandar of the In Details podcast. Today we are joined by my brother. How are you, bro?
Batselechi Gazira.
How are you?
I'm awesome. How you doing?
I'm great. It's very nice to be with you on this episode.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Right?
Long overdue, but yes, it's finally happened.
Right. And straight into it. Today we're talking about mental health in men. So, in general, what can you say about mental health in men?
Mental health in men is a very diverse
Or
topic. It ranges from a lot of things. Firstly, we need to grasp what mental health itself means and what it stands for. So when we're talking about mental health, we're talking about the overall social, emotional, and physical well-being of a human. And when we get in that, the problem arises when it starts being negatively affected with things that happen inside of our daily lives.
all right. So, at what point can we can say this person is now affected, or we can now see mental health issues in a man? Because they always say us men we put things inside. We don't want to talk to people. We don't want to express how we are feeling. So, at what point can we say at this point this person has some mental health issues?
You can definitely notice a change in pattern and behavior. There are certain things that someone does in routine that you see that they're not doing anymore.
All right.
For example, you're looking at a daily situation. Someone is up and bubbly, they're on their way to work, and next thing you find themselves inside of a bedroom and they're just depressed and they literally spend 2 months or even 3 months and they don't even get out. The only thing that they do is eat, sleep, and then cry.
All right. So the symptoms, and maybe you may have some symptoms that you say if somebody is behaving in this way, if someone is behaving this way, especially we are talking as men, because mental health is mainly affecting men as compared to women. I don't even know that men are affected that much. So I think can you just go deeper concerning about the symptoms of mental health issues in men, and not to be specific about let's say someone is diagnosed with depression, anxiety, PSTD or something like that, but the general symptoms of if somebody is affected by mental health issues in men.
Some of them include withdrawal. You're not doing anything else. You just withdraw from everything and you feel like I'm not into this thing anymore.
All right.
You completely avoid people. That's another symptom. You don't want anything to do. Your social life is decreasing by the day. Then, as you mentioned, two of them, by the way, anxiety and depression. Anxiety, you can get a disorder, a very severe one. And now you're getting into the whole depression mood, whereby you even start saying that I eat because I'm depressed and I'm depressed because I eat. Perhaps you're someone who's overweight and you feel like that's something that burdens you. So it negatively affects your mental health in that certain manner. And the more it happens, the more symptoms are going to accumulate from that.
You were saying if you are having some mental health issues, you will be like isolating yourself.
Yes.
So in isolating yourself, you'll be living more in the brain, like not in the outside world. That's what you're saying. So
Yes.
you'll be thinking a lot concerned about everything which is happening to you without sharing it. So the problem comes when you are not sharing it and is eating you up. So that's where all these diseases come to accumulate. Like all of them, they'll be like accumulating and accumulating. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly. Because when you find out they accumulate more and more, the thing that we don't happen to do as men is we don't reach out as we actually should. We want to, but we start fearing that if I start telling this certain person, especially if it's a woman, I don't feel comfortable with it, she doesn't make me feel comfortable. We end up just withdrawing and be like, I don't want to do this anymore.
So we're saying us as men, we are suffering because of pride. We don't want to be belittled like because I'm a man, so I don't have to tell somebody that I'm having a problem. Is that what you're saying?
Amongst other things, one of them, that is really, really the main issue. Because we feel like if we tell a certain person, especially the opposite gender, they're going to laugh at me, and then she's probably going to tell someone else, and then they won't understand what it's like to be mentally ill, per se.
All right. So, what really causes some mental issues in men, specifically in men? What really causes? Because there will be like a number of things which may cause mental problems in men. But what really, from your perspective, what really causes some mental problems in men?
There's certain scenarios. For example, the way that I'm supposed to be brought up to be a man, I'm meant to be a provider. In very various texts and narratives, I'm supposed to be the one who's giving the provisions, so to be supporting everybody, but I can't be doing that if I'm not making money. So, for example, mainly work. If I'm not pretty much employed or doing something alternatively, I just feel like it's not happening for me. And then I get into a state where I feel like I don't want to talk to anyone. I shiver and I get cold. So I distance myself from everybody. Another factor is that it could be genetics that can actually affect, because you find out that there's certain mental health symptoms or illnesses that are brought inside of you. So you find out, for example, those who are just have a natural anxiety disorder, like we talked about earlier. You find out that, okay, maybe you don't feel good enough, or you start panicking socially, you're around certain people. You've never been comfortable, but then you're thrown into the wolves. That's how you feel when someone is like, let's go out, let's do something, let's maybe play basketball, or let's just go and hang out. Like there's a social concert event. We don't end up doing, you don't end up feeling comfortable as a human being because it's never been your safe space. Some people are introverted, we don't understand them. Some people are extroverted, we also don't understand them. So when we can actually cross and meet that line whereby you're like, okay, this person is like this person's like that, we need to pay attentively and listen more than judging someone based off face value.
All right. All right. So, let's say I've just met somebody who have problems, who have mental problems, and I really want to talk to him. I really want to help him.
Yeah.
How do I approach somebody with some mental health issues? I have, with the symptoms that you have just said, somebody is diagnosed with some mental health issues, he'll be like isolated, you don't want to talk to a lot of people, eating disorders. There are a lot of disorders. You have just seen that this person have a lot of disorders, but you really want to talk to that person, you really want to help. How can I approach a person, a man who might believe that he have some mental health issues?
For example, we can give a scenario. This person has anorexia as a man. With anorexia, you'd already know that they already feel too underweight, or they actually feel too skinny. So they end up not just eating. They just feel like every single time that there's already too much. If we're talking about one bowl of rice, it's already too much for them. They only just have one spoon. When you go up and you approach them, the first interaction that you make, you get to know the person. You just be like, hello, how are you? You get to know their name, what they're about. You get to know a bit of information so that you can get something of substance. But you find out that there's some people who don't tell you, or they're very hesitant. So you have to find a way of keeping the conversation going without discriminating that person. And if you notice those certain trends, you don't start off by saying, I'm actually going to be there for you. Just be positive. And when they're ready to tell you, just be supportive. Because all of us have got problems. Right. It's a world and it's meant to be cruel, unfortunately.
So it's all about talking to somebody, getting to be at a par level, like understanding each other. Then you divulge miss problems, then talk through it. That's the main approach, right?
Yes.
All right. So let's talk about suicide in men.
Let's talk about it.
Because I think like the rate of suicide, especially in Zimbabwe, in men, is very high. It's increasing as compared to suicide in men. So what's your take on about suicide in men?
There's a reason why suicide in men is just that way. It's a first resort. It's a way out whereby you feel like, let me just end it all. Probably nobody cares about me. If I talked about it with somebody, or if someone was to be in my shoes, they wouldn't understand. So in that temporary situation, you're like, I know exactly what I'm doing. You're conscious, it's visible, but you can't just seem to get yourself out of it. Perhaps you've always been suicidal. Perhaps all of us have been suicidal, but there's certain things which you can look around which would actually keep you going.
So are you saying suicide or is it hereditary? If in the family, it may be hereditary, maybe somebody have committed suicide somehow in the family. Is it hereditary suicide?
Suicide isn't hereditary,
Mhm.
but I will say there's certain moments whereby we can even joke about it. For example, some people say that I just feel like let me just end it all. Like let me just kill myself. In as much as we actually do that as a joke, you never know if that person is being serious, and it reflects differently to other people. So it being hereditary, no, it's something whereby it can just accumulate over time.
Also, suicide is like there's something which will be like troubling you as a man, and it's accumulating daily, monthly, weekly, and you just have the thought like, why should I continue living? Let me just end it just like that.
Yeah, definitely, because you don't wake up today and say, I want to kill myself. There has been something going on over time that you find out that ends up making you want to kill yourself that certain day.
So why is it more common in men as compared to women? Like just randomly thinking to kill yourself. Why is it more in men as compared to women?
Well, a pride issue is raised and it's a concern. Males feel like they're the providers or they should be playing their role. It can also play down to culture as well, which is a contributor.
All right.
Because in our African culture, most of the times, if you're not doing anything, you're not considered a good man. If you're not working towards something, or at least if you don't have projects that you're doing on the side, or side hustles that we call these days, you're not doing anything. So that twists and messes up with your mind, especially if you have a partner and they're providing more or they're holding three quarters of what you were supposed to be doing initially. And then you find out the next thing. You start thinking that, people are now saying that I'm off a man, I can't even afford this, or my lifestyle has completely changed.
So are you saying is it a problem for a woman to be earning more than you as a man? Is it a problem? Is it a problem?
Personally, for me, I wouldn't have a problem with it. If we're growing together, if we're in a relationship, and our couple relationship, if we're going to increase, these are the things that we talk about. Although I won't say that it wouldn't bother me, because some way, somehow, it does feel like that, because what society does and what culture does, it tells us that we're supposed to be the ones who are doing this 95% of the work. So, if, however, we can discuss the whole thing, our finances, and put them on the side. Because you might actually be surprised that when it comes to finances, most of the time, if ladies do handle the finances, most of the time it actually doesn't disappear. You can name me a lot of cases or you can name me situations, but from what I have seen, they're usually the ones who multiply the finances because they know how to store, they know how to keep.
All right. What to say about those people who joke around about mental illness? Like they'll be making fun of it, like somebody's experiencing some mental health issues. Maybe he's just isolating himself. Maybe he's just acting his too. Because somebody told me that mental health is not it's only not about being too sad only. You're like too happy. If you are too happy, you're just doing things to the extreme, and people are just making joke of your mental illness. What's your take about those who make jokes about some mental health issues?
It's ignorance. There's misinformation that they've been told somewhere, and they're uneducated about the issue. That's just simply what it is. Why would I be making jokes over something I don't understand? I see someone today changes their attitude. They're happy. Why should I disturb their peace? They're trying to forget. That's exactly what they hear. So instead of me making them feel comfortable, I say derogatory things and negative things. Like, you're smiling like a lot, which it shouldn't be happening. Or, like, you're not usually like this. Like, what exactly is going on? In such a negative tone. Then when I go back home, or that person goes back home, I'm in my own bubble and I can't even confess. I can't even speak to myself. I end up just thinking of probably even hitting the wall. I write to myself saying that I am a bad person. I'm not good enough. I do not feel good enough.
But so, what should we do to a relative or a friend to whom I see he or she have some mental health problems? but we're not doing anything. So what do you think I should do to a relative? Somebody who is very close to me. Maybe we were joking around to people who were outside, but now this is somebody who is very close, like a relative, a friend. What should I do to a person like that?
Question: have you ever told one of your relatives that you're depressed?
Why should I tell them that I'm depressed? Because I think
Right.
the problem is because people who are depressed or people who are facing mental health issues, they
Mhm.
seem not to want to tell people their problems. That's the first problem. They don't want people to know that they are suffering, especially as the men. Men don't want to express themselves like they are suffering. They hide
Mhm.
the pain. They don't want to show the pain.
Mhm.
But you as an individual, you're just saying, nah, my brother is suffering. My friend is suffering. What should I do when I just see somebody I really love, somebody I have this connection with, but he's suffering, she's suffering, but today we're talking about men, he's suffering, but you don't want you don't want to be to have this conversation. What should I do? What should I do?
The simple answer is to support. Support them. Be with them. If you don't support them, who else is going to support them? And even in silence, there are not expressive people out there. They don't say a word. They don't talk about their problems. But if you can see a problem, you have to have the mindset that no, I can actually find out the gap. What exactly is going on? So once you can bridge from there, you gather your family around because that, especially the ones you love.
Right.
If it's an issue whereby there's love which isn't present, that's a whole different issue that you put on the side. But you need those supportive people. If they're not supporting you, go to someone else. You've got your friends. Perhaps you've got colleagues that you learned with, or even those acquaintances. The best person that you can have a conversation with is a stranger because you don't know them, you do feel vulnerable, and you do tend to let out your emotions because they're not going to judge you.
So it's all about judging. Because if
Yes.
you are judged, you are not given the absolute resolution for that problem.
Yeah, why would I go? Why would I stick around to somewhere where I don't feel comfortable? Especially because I don't expect you to understand sometimes because you never will.
All right.
You know, maybe you've never been robbed, but I've been robbed.
All
And
right.
you're coming here saying that this is what you should do when when you've been robbed, yet you've never been in that situation. So you just got to be supportive. And if that doesn't work out, just refer to them. There's so many lines of work, there's so many NGOs that we can actually reach out to. And the main one is the suicide prevention one. It's there in every country. It's there here, even in Zimbabwe as well.
All right.
So it's not as difficult to reach out.
What is the biggest misconception, question, or behavior about mental health, especially in men? Because people will be like, they'll be having this misconception. Is it real? Is mental illness real in men? Because men, they'll be like, nah, I'm not experiencing any mental health issues. They'll be like having that misconception. What is the biggest misconception about mental health that you've ever heard
Concerning men,
about concerning
men don't feel pain.
men?
Men don't feel
Okay,
pain.
so
Men don't cry. We hear it every day. Men don't cry.
we are taught even we are young. You don't have to cry. You're a boy. A boy don't cry. A man don't
Exactly. You
cry.
gotta man up, you gotta
Yeah.
beef up, you gotta eat. So it's a culture issue as well.
So we're saying us as men are falling into these mental health problems. It's being caused with cultural values that we have just adapted since we were young. Are you saying that?
It's a contributor. Explain to someone, for example, who there's an age gap. If you explain to someone who's significantly older or is considered elderly, they don't have any experience and they've never been told about what mental health is or what mental illness is because there's a very big difference. Mental health we're trying to promote. Mental health illness is the negative parts that we're now getting from that. So you tell someone that I'm feeling certain things. I've got a certain disorder. I am depressed. I am not feeling I'm not feeling like myself today. We already consider them as crazy. Usually that's what happens. So that's why we just end up telling people within our same criteria, or the same people that are in the same stage of life, the same age, around those people. We feel comfortable.
All right. Mm, Before I go to this question, I want to ask: can we just divulge, explain a little bit something about the mental health disorders, maybe depression, anxiety? Uh, can we just elaborate? Can you just elaborate? Maybe we'll be like talking, oh, your mental health, but right now we didn't say like explain the main uh, mental health disorders. Can you just explain more? What's depression? What's anxiety? What's etc. etc. Can you just elaborate more content about that?
Mm. What we get into when we're disorders, or what it is about depression or anxiety. Depression, I can describe it pretty much as a view, like as a scenario, or somewhere where you get to a point whereby you you just lose your self touch of life. Yeah, you just lose yourself. You lose what you actually believe in, and you're just so detached from a part of life, from a causing factor that you actually see in your day to day life, even. Because there has to be a reason behind why you're actually depressed.
All right.
And then when we're looking into anxiety, we're talking about when you're in a certain sphere or a certain space, you're not as comfortable. And it just starts picking up because perhaps you don't have the confidence to speak to someone, or it's something which is hereditary. That's where it actually comes in. It's in the genes. The disorder is pretty much already there, and you need someone to actually just help you to stabilize yourself.
All right. Let me go straight to this question.
Right.
How can mental health journeys uh, affect careers in a man's life? Like, how can that mental health, how can that depression, that anxiety, that bipolar, all those mental health issues affect men in their careers?
9 times out of 10, your career goes down on a spiral,
All right.
and you're just going to keep on spinning until you hit the ground. Instead of you hitting the ground running and lifting up yourself, you're just going to find yourself stuck, stagnant at the same point. The more you're discouraged by certain situations that you're in, the more it's actually going to get worse. So, especially if you're someone who already has it hereditary, it's not going to be a good look for you inside of your workspace. The workers are not going to have time to ask, okay, this certain person, that certain person. Perhaps even in that organization, there should be policies that should be built saying that, like, you shouldn't discriminate certain people. But what do we see every day?
Mm-hmm.
I'm crazy. And yet you don't even know that this is what I have.
All right. So, what can be the most resourceful platform or way of managing mental health issues in men?
There's
Either in work, because men they are mainly at work. So
Mhm.
either men at work, youth at in the streets, in the society. What can be the best way to manage mental health issues in men?
If I was someone that I who didn't know about this,
Mm.
if you're someone who didn't know about this, I would have said, let's just go to the bar and drink. If we have wives, then put them on the side. Because that's what we do. We see men doing that. And it actually helps and it works for them. But
So are you saying
have you
that
seen?
alcohol abuse? It's like you're abusing alcohol because the more you be like taking the alcohol, the problem will not disappear. It just disappear like 5 minutes that you'll be drinking, 10 minutes, an hour, 5 hours that you'll be drinking. But soon after you are sober, there comes the problem, and then you face the real life.
Exactly. It always recurs. As alcohol, of course, it's never a solution for a lot of problems. Like,
So, what are those ways that you believe that maybe this and that may be helpful in managing the mental health issues in men?
the ways that we can see, you have to find a coping mechanism. I know people who just genuinely write down or journal their thoughts down. And you look at those artists out there,
Mhm.
those, like, there's certain people who we look into their discography. You find out that, okay, fine, they talk about their depression. If you're going to go into rap or hip hop music, you see someone like Kendrick Lamar.
Mhm.
They express what they talk about when it comes to depression, especially with his album Mr. Moran, the Big Steppers, there's a song which he mentions about him being unfaithful to his wife. And he's now been able to confess his issues as a man. He feels less of a man, but that helps him because it's therapy. He's not the only man who's going through that. There's several other men out there as well who reach that sort of situation. And they listen to him, and once they tune into him, it's a tool that they use. There's so many other methods that we can use besides writing down. Just go get fresh air, just take a jog.
A breather.
Yeah, just take a breather. Breathe. You should, like, life is too short,
All right.
in a nutshell, to be thinking about the what ifs, the negatives. What are people going to think of me? We should encourage one another to be finding those solutions, especially within men. Just because you're not working or you're jobless or you don't have something stable, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't keep on going. Remember, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
All right.
And if you're even on step 999 and you fall back to one, keep on going again. It's progress.
How about networking? Is it a way that you may help in coping with mental health issues?
100%. Networking is beautiful because you have a pool of people who feel the same way as you. They're so scared. They're also trying to express themselves. They also need a push, a pick me up, and people to push them. So you find out when they push you, they encourage you to start speaking about. That's why there's certain support groups which are there. There are also organizations which are even in Zim, where you find out that they encourage you to be in groups, have that group therapy.
They always say that us as black people, maybe in Zimbabwe, therapy is not something people are very familiar with. Especially men. A man talking to somebody, a stranger, telling him everything that he's just suffering from. People don't believe that. So, what to say about therapy as a way of managing mental health issues?
Therapy is beautiful. It's just unfortunate that some, and with the way Zimbabwe is, the structure, 70% of the people live in rural areas. And you find out that there's zero to no access to someone who can give you that therapy. I believe talking to someone who you end up having a relationship with and you just keep it strictly therapeutic, you find out that no, it's very, very beneficial. But it's just unfortunate the affordability for those who are not in those areas. Because if you want to consult, even a 1 to 2 hour session with a psychologist, or even if it's a social worker, or even it's someone who's a therapist, you find out that it's $50 to $60 per rate.
Right.
And not a lot of people can afford that money.
So,
But if you do not have those alternatives, you are encouraged to keep on being in those, just join those networking platforms which are there. You find out that you're in a team, there are people who are going to tell you, they literally support groups even on WhatsApp.
all right.
Get into that. And
All right. So, in conclusion, is there anything that you really want to say about mental health that we didn't mention? Maybe to give more emphasis on something that you really want people to know out there, especially men, about mental health in men.
yes, mental health in men is something we should be encouraged to be open about. Men out there shouldn't be ashamed. They shouldn't feel like if this certain thing happened to me or whatever trauma that I've experienced in the past, it shouldn't affect my progress and the way that I'm going to go ahead in life. Because once we start thinking of those negative what ifs, that's the moment where we're going to drown and that's when we're going to go down. So, my encouragement is pretty much just to reach out and then seek and then get professional help and get the people who support you the most. Because without those certain people, none of that progress is going to happen. It's not going to work well. It's not going to work out for you. So just stay encouraged, stay blessed, and raise your head high.
Right. That's okay. Thank you very much for this exciting conversation. And I hope we have helped a lot of people out there because men, we are very ignorant about our mental health. We don't even think that mental health exists.
Yes?
So with this platform, I think it's very good. So that we can bring out some information that will, one or two people will just grasp and make it of use out there.
Just 110%.
All right.
You are encouraged to reach out, people. There's a support group that I work with as a peer counselor slash social worker. It's called Laudium Mental. It's called Soleil Levant Foundation, and AKA Soul. So with Soul, we have a support group. We deal with these issues that you find out. Okay, teens, whether young adults as well. That's mostly our age group. You find out that there's certain issues which are like suicide, substance abuse, and depression. We attempt by all means to reduce those measures the best way we can. So join us. Also view this podcast in the details, which is phenomenal, an open platform where someone can feel safe, someone can feel comfortable, and someone can feel valid.
Thank you very much, Abbas.
That's been awesome.
It's okay.
Cool.
All right, so that's a wrap. Join me in my next episode for the day. Thank you very much. Adios.
Mandara Mandara Wadiko.